So I got my colostomy bag the other day.
Returned from the dead.
Yep, I got my colostomy bag. I no longer poop out my butt, but through my stomach.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
That'd be a bit of inconvenience to clean, though, wouldn't it? Like, you wouldn't have to, like, it out every once in a while.
Do you think you could put it in the dishwasher to clean?
Maybe, but I also can just like spill it on people, and I think that's funnier.
Would you not have to, like, you'd have to empty it out first before you put it in the dishwasher?
Like a squeezy pouch. Do you know those water bottles?
It's like the yogurt, like the yogurt.
No, go on.
Yeah, like the yogurts. But
Yeah,
you
go
could
on,
fill
do
it
the
up
action
with water
idea.
and then you could squeeze it.
Yeah.
I
Very,
guess it probably was, like...
very,
I like the
Bear
throw it at
Grylls.
people idea, though.
Do
Like,
you
if you...
I would throw it at you.
Do you think if Bear Grylls had a colostomy bag, he'd actually use it to store water?
Yeah, 100%.
And
He would siphon his own body water, Dune 2 style.
Very outdoorsy.
Mm.
Very
Anyway,
chill.
welcome back to Yappertisers.
Yeah! Welcome back to Yap. Hope you enjoyed the 21 Pilots one. Only Riley got a choice in that because it's Riley week.
It's no longer Riley week.
I left halfway through. I got sick of it.
It is
Yeah.
no longer Riley week. We're back to normal.
Yeah, Riley
I
week is over.
Couldn't find another jacket in
Did
time.
he put his jacket back on? Yes.
It's the only jacket in this room.
He's living in that glory.
It's the
I'm
only
not
jacket in
wearing
this
any
room.
clothes.
You could have put on Cody's outfit.
I don't want to.
Why not?
I'm okay with that.
All my clothes are edited on due to the power of Caitlyn. Thank you, Caitlyn.
Oh god.
I'm not wearing anything.
This is a lot of editing for someone who's a basic editor.
Well, you know, it's good practice.
Find out. Anyways, for this Yap, we will be talking about a movie I really enjoy. It's a horror film. Or franchise, a horror franchise, seeing as we rated it pretty much up there.
You rated it at the top. I didn't get a say in
we
it.
rated it up there.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you watch the video?
Wow. Bro doesn't do the required readings each week.
Even Corey watched it.
Yeah, before I killed him.
And guess what happened to him? He got buried.
Yeah.
So it turns out maybe I ended
Caitlyn and
up...
I both watched the episode. We're still here.
Mm-hmm.
You watched it quite a few times, actually.
I did.
I watched it
He
once.
just quoted to me.
Did I put it in 1.5 speed?
Yes.
I put it on my second monitor and muted it.
Does that
Anyways,
count as watching?
Yeah. It does.
we're going to dive into the story
Let's watch, not
of
listen.
one of Australia's most notorious killers following the October month of spooky and scary.
What about Ned Kelly?
That was an option, but I thought this one might be a little bit more fun. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. Hi.
Show us.
Alright.
Alright.
Let's hope the slides work this time.
I hope so too. Okay, do you know who this person is?
No idea.
Yes.
Yes? Who is that?
This is the Wolf Creek guy, who's based off.
Is it Ivan Milat?
is Ivan.
I got the last name wrong 5 minutes ago.
Yes. It
Presented
is
by Ivan Milat?
Ivan Milat, presented by producer Caitlyn.
He's here!
Holy shit!
I'd be concerned because he is dead.
Yeah, he came back.
He's here!
So was Cody. Cody was dead.
Oh my.
Cody was dead. He's back.
He could have just gotten sick of being dead too.
Yeah, true. I mean, he probably would have. TBH.
Hmm.
This man is not a very good man.
I reckon he,
Yeah, good. Good.
Yeah? Do you know what this guy did?
I'm assuming
If
he
it's-
murdered a few people.
If it's anything like the movie, yes. If it's not, no.
Okay.
He probably did a head on a stick, though.
Oh, God.
He probably did that.
Did he do a head on
Did
a
he do
turtle?
that?
I won't give away spoilers.
He totally did that. No, he
Alright.
didn't do the fucking...
Before we talk about the case, let's talk about the film that was inspired by it.
So
Before
was
you
he
do that...
inspired by the film to do the
Yeah.
real life one? Or?
So the film is based around the case from Ivan Milat.
Bye.
Don't kick me in the nuts, please. Thanks.
This film is one of my favourite films. Not only is this an Australian homegrown film, but it was a fresh student film. So this director was straight out of school.
Yeah, I didn't know that when
Yeah.
we mentioned it
Wow.
last week.
With a budget of just $1 million, the first film alone made 30 times its budget, raking up $30,894,796 in the box office.
Damn. And for 2005, that's pretty damn
Yeah.
good. Pretty dang snazzy.
So Wolf Creek is a 2005 Australian horror film written, co-produced, and directed by Greg
Bragg.
McLean. and starring John Jarrett, Nathan Phillips, Cassandra Margus, and Kirsty, I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, Kirsty Morasi. Its plot concerns three backpackers who find themselves taken captive and subsequently hunted by Mick Taylor, a sadistic, psychopathic, xenophobic serial killer in the Australian outback.
So did they change his name in the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The film was ambiguously marketed as being based on true events, which it is.
Technically, it is.
While its plot bore elements reminiscent of the real-life murders of the backpackers by Ivan Milat in the 1990s and Bradley Murdoch in 2001, both of which McLean used as inspiration for the screenplay. But in this Yappertiser, we will focus only on Ivan Milat, one of Australia's biggest serial killers.
He's gone on to do a lot of really cool stuff in horror.
Ivan Milat?
No, the director.
Yeah.
He did, I think his most recent one's The Belko Experiment.
I haven't watched that.
It's pretty good. Written by James Gunn.
So film critic called Margaret Pomeranz stated in her review of Wolf Creek that the film was one of the factors that was contributing to the new confidence in the local film industry, meaning in Australia. Given that it was produced on such a low budget, McLean's Wolf Creek is the quintessential Australian horror movie. Name me another Australian horror
Talk to
movie.
me. That's
Other
it.
than that,
That's
yeah.
it. Oh, do you count Late Night with the Devil? That was filmed in Sydney.
But it's going to be like an actual Australian set film.
Okay, well then not that.
Exactly.
So just
Saw
talk to
8.
me. Saw 8's not in Australia. I've seen that one. You can't.
like-
You can't throw Saw at me. I've seen them. Terrify 3.
Not only that, it gathers most of its terror from the stereotypical ochre character. You know, your blokey,
The fuck is an orca?
the ochre. It's like the blokey stereotypical Australian.
True blue
a bogan.
Aussie?
Yes,
Yeah,
Like a true
no,
blue
not
Aussie.
bogan, a true blue.
like not quite bogan, but like bogan-esque.
He has like land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lives off the land. He is the land, like sort of thing.
He doesn't know what the hell an internet is.
Exactly.
He doesn't want to know what
No.
the hell an internet is either.
He has no idea who Mark Zuckerberg is.
Fuck.
And honestly,
Let's keep it that way.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't want Mick Taylor going after Mark Zuckerberg. Actually, no, I'd watch the hell out of that movie.
My God.
Wolf Creek
Okay.
3. It's been delayed 5 times.
Not only does it have the stereotypical ochre character, but it also focuses on the idolist nature of the Australian landscape, aka Exhibit A
It's a
and
very
C
gorgeous
on that
movie.
side.
Aussie Australia.
Like cinematographically, this movie is gorgeous.
Mm.
Gorgeous. So another article by Scott and Buren, they argued that Wolf Creek takes the iconic rural landscape, like your red sunburnt like land, and the Australian outback, and it turns it into a source of fear, of just pure nothingness. It is just you surviving in the wild with no one there. It subverts the usual representations of Australia's cultural imagination within the representation of the main antagonist, Mick Taylor, played by John Jarrett, who is an obvious subversion of the well-known icon Paul Hogan, who played the main character from Crocodile Dundee, who was also called Mick Dundee.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm putting down?
I'm picking it up.
His name wasn't Crocodile?
Sorry,
Or
boss.
Dundee?
Sorry, boss.
All right. In Wolf Creek, he immediately situates himself with this harmlessness of the ochre stereotype, like he's nice, referring to the girls as Sheilas, and, obviously he would hurt someone drop, Bob's your uncle. He drops Bob's his sister, being like, haha, I'm different. And with his appearance, with just having like a little bit of stubble, his flannel and a bucket hat, Blick argues in like another article that the villain is distinctly Australian. That is who you see as an Australian, is this bloke. He described it as a bushman gone wacko and a Crocodile Dundee with more than just a few screws loose.
That's
Like,
a
this
good.
man's
That's a
all nuts.
good review. That's great.
Seem most useful when comparing the similarities between the two Micks, Dundee and Taylor, refers to the scene with Ben. Ben is this guy here. He looks like Alex Carrera from Grey's Anatomy. And soon to be victims of Taylor's directly quotes Dundee's line, "That's not a knife.
Knife.
This
That's a
is a knife." You would have heard that, right?
I want to watch this.
That's not a
Yeah.
knife. This is a knife.
And then that's my. If anyone wants to check out these reviews, that's the link to it in there.
Like, it's a very, very slow movie, but once it gets going,
Once you're in, you're in.
like it takes
Locked in.
it takes 40 minutes for something to actually happen.
Yeah.
But once it happens, it's very good.
Yeah.
The first act is really slow though.
But it's so pretty.
Mm.
So pretty. So, with a nice bit of critical input and how this movie kind of threw Australia into the limelight, let's move into the case of Ivan Milat. Yeah, you're not going to think that in a sec. So, introduction. Ivan Milat, known as the Backpacker Murderer, is one of Australia's most infamous serial killers. His brutal crimes during the early 1990s not only shocked the nation, but also brought significant attention to issues of safety for travellers and the efficiency of law and enforcement. I'll talk about some of the really important info about him. I'll dabble in what happened to his victims and the investigation leading into his arrest. I won't talk too much of the trial. It was pretty straightforward, like, yeah, he did it.
You killed these people by...
Yeah, pretty much.
Nuh-uh.
Oh, shit.
And then the lasting legacy of his actions. Like, this man changed Australia. So, background and early life. So, Ivan Milat was born on December 27th, 1944 in Sydney, Australia. Not
I bet
far
he's
from
the
where we
weird
are.
one that's not smiling.
We'll play a
Bottom,
game in a
bottom
sec.
right.
He was born into a large family of Croatian immigrants. So, he's not Australian. Well, he is Australian born, but his family's from
Oh,
Croatia.
representing Sydney.
He was the fifth of
Fuck yeah.
14 children and experienced
Dude, I love
a
Sydney.
tumultuous upbringing marked by poverty and domestic violence. His father was often violent and his mother often pregnant. I mean, she had 14 kids, 15 kids. Milat and his overcrowded family grew up in a shack house in Moorebank, a suburb located on
Yeah.
the outskirts of Sydney,
That's why you
Australia.
turned out like that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The Milat siblings were enrolled in private Catholic schools, but after classes would get into a lot of mischief. They were used to handling knives and firearms and spent their afternoons shooting at targets in their parents' yard. Milat was a well-known delinquent to authorities by the age of 13. Milat had a history of criminal behaviour prior to his murders, including thefts and physical assault. By 17, he'd been sent to a juvenile detention centre for theft. By 19, he broke into a local store, and according to Milat's older brother Boris, who has been the only family member to speak out publicly against Ivan, he said that Ivan showed signs of psychopathic behaviour from when he was really little. Out of all those siblings, only one has spoken up against Ivan Milat. This isn't even half the family.
Yeah.
Okay, when Ivan Milat was 17, he allegedly confessed to Boris, that older brother, about accidentally shooting a taxi driver during a stick-up gone awry. The man was left paralysed from the waist down. Milat was never caught, and an innocent man was subsequently convicted and served 5 years in prison for his crime.
Nice.
Then, in 1971, at the age of 26, Ivan Milat was charged with the, I'm not going to say the word, but it's written there, of 2 female backpackers. But the sloppiness of the prosecutors' evidence only served to get Milat acquitted. Perhaps having got away with this crime, Ivan Milat felt he could get away with more and worse crimes. He then attempted again the blank and murder of 2 more women in 1977, for which he was never charged. Ivan Milat married a woman 15 years his junior, in 1984, but the marriage went south quickly, and as a result, Milat burned down her parents' house in Newcastle.
Very good.
His ex-wife testified against Milat in trial and said her ex-husband was obsessed with guns and known to be violent. But Ivan Milat's propensity for violence would only grow, fueling ever more gruesome crimes. Guess which one is Ivan Milat?
One in the middle, smiling, actually, next on the right of the weird red thing.
What colour? What
The
colour shirt?
Light blue
Blue.
shirt, he's saying.
Blue.
Can I do the one in white on the left in the background? So in between the younger one and the sister.
Cody's correct. It is front and centre. Ivan Milat.
Damn.
Yeah, he looks
Light blue.
scary.
Alright, I'm just going to put out a warning now. I'm going to talk about what happened to these victims in not a lot of detail, but enough that it's going to really put in force and perspective of Wolf Creek. Even before the first of Ivan Milat's victims had been found, a slew of backpackers were reported missing in the Belangolo forest since 1989. Belangolo is down here, by the way.
Where
It's
the
about
forest?
2 hours from us, roughly. Could be even an hour
We're
45.
good.
Is it more Sydney side?
It's more
yeah,
Sydney.
it looks like on the border.
Yeah. I couldn't find an actual decent map that was closer where I could see more things.
Right.
So in the Belangolo forest since 1989, including a teenage couple en route to Confest, which was like a hippie festival.
I was going to say, it sounds like it was like a convention first.
Is that Sorkon? Move on.
It's close.
I'm not even going to ask.
Move on. Don't
The
ask.
first of Ivan Milat's victims were found on September 19th in 1992 in the Belangolo State Forest located in New South Wales. Sweet.
Got it.
2 runners first stumbled on a concealed corpse face down in the dirt, hands tied behind their back. But then another body was found the following morning by police just 98 feet from the first body. Dental records identified the 2 bodies as British backpackers Caroline Clark, who was 21, and Joanne Walters, who was 22. That's them here. The joint.
The camera's in the way. Couldn't see the one on the left.
Who were last seen months before in April on their way to Victoria to go fruit picking, which is part of like a visa you've got to do. It's like something you've got to do if you're doing backpacking.
They got murdered before they were held captive, pretty much forever.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
we
they've
all know
only got
that
to do it for like a week or 2.
The fruit picking payments and like the places that they offer you
Oh,
to
it's
stay,
crap.
it's
It's
yeah,
crap.
it's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. It's
But they're
borderline
backpackers.
slavery.
An autopsy report confirmed that the 2 had been brutally slaughtered. Clark had been blindfolded and marched into the bush execution style, then
Fucking
shot
hell.
10 times in the head. It was believed her body had been used for target practice.
Ah,
Walters had been stabbed 14 times, 4 times in the chest, 1 in the neck, and 9 times in the back, which ultimately severed her spine.
There it is.
ugh.
There's the line.
And then that's me explaining that that's them. This is what the landscape looked like, by the way. It's like your typical rainforest.
Every forest in Australia.
Alright,
I'm used to it.
suspecting they would find more bodies in the forest, investigators conducted a search of the area but came up empty-handed. But they were right, and eventually more corpses were unearthed in the coming year. In October of 1993, a local man searching for firewood discovered human bones in a remote part of the Belangolo forest. After returning with police, authorities quickly uncovered 2 bodies, which were later identified as the young teenage couple who had gone missing in 1989, who were going to confess. Deborah Everest, who was 19, and James Gibson, who was 19. Gibson, who's the man, was found in the fetal position, riddled with stab wounds so deep that his spine had been severed and his lungs completely punctured. Everest, the female, had been beaten, her head fractured and jaw broken, and stabbed once in the back. The location of the teenagers' bodies confounded police as their belongings had popped up, in December of 1989, 75 miles north of their bodies.
Oh.
So someone carried their stuff somewhere. This is Ivan Milat, by the way. These are some of the photos of the other ones. Like Deborah Everest, James Gibson, and then these 2 down the bottom. So this one and this one we've already talked about. Alright, the next month, a skeleton was found in the clearing along a fire trail in the forest during a police sweep. The remains were later identified as missing German backpacker Simone Schmiedel, who was 21. She had also been stabbed so deeply that her spine had been severed. On a nearby fire trail, 2 more corpses were discovered, including German travellers Gabor Bigboer.
Do it.
They're German, so someone will fix me up in the comments. Who was 21, and Anja Haberschild, who was 20, who had been missing since 2 years prior. Haberschild, which is at the top here, That's Simone. Habashir had been decapitated, but investigators were never able to find her skull.
Oh.
And Negamaja had been shot in the head 6 times. The carnage was nothing like the local authorities had seen before. The killings dominated the news. The series of homicides earned the nickname Backpacker Murders, considering the killer had targeted tourists hitchhiking their way through Australia. That shows, quote, that shows you how malicious and nasty the murders were, end quote, said the retired New South Wales Police Detective Clive Small, who led the investigation of the Backpacker Murders. Quote, the deaths were being dragged out, and the fact that there were a number of deaths also shows that he was becoming more and more committed to the murders. Thoughts so far?
Icky.
Quite brutal, isn't it?
Icky.
Yeah.
He severed at least 3 of these victims' spines.
You know what severing a spine does, right? Leaves your paralyzed neck down.
I mean, that makes
No,
sense.
no, severed. Like, it's been cut off. Your
Yeah.
spine?
Yeah, your head's still there though.
Oh.
It just paralyzes you.
Well, it's going to paralyze you no matter what, being stabbed in the spine, but the spine is severed. It's been completely removed from where it was meant to be.
Thanks.
Bro did not
Big
like
knife.
tourists.
They still haven't found that woman's head yet.
They won't. It's long gone now.
Really important, that picture on the left there, someone actually caught a photo of him with one of the victims' stuff.
Oh.
Yeah,
Who's the guy on the top right?
you'll find out.
He looks like Shane Top.
Stop!
Impressive.
Alright, authorities counted that between 1989 and 1992, the killer acted every 12 months. His target of choice was young travellers, both men and women, whom he picked up as they tried to grab rides from strangers from Sydney to Melbourne. Like, he sat weird cusp where he could go down towards Melbourne. The media frenzy soon conjured up past reports about the Milat brothers, who were known to possess firearms and lived about an hour away from the Belanglo forest. However, authorities did not have any evidence that would warrant a search of the Milats or their property where Ivan Milat was still living with his mother.
Oh.
Right, in the top right is the only survivor of Ivan Milat. His name is Paul Thomas Onions.
Right
Good.
on. That's Mr. Onions.
Yeah.
It's a good name.
If people recall in the Wolf Creek films,
Oh yeah, fucking Thingo gets out.
the survivor is inspired by Paul Onions.
Right, yeah.
So among the flood of tipsters eventually came news from a British man named Paul Onions, an ex-Navy member who had backpacked around Australia years prior. He told Australian investigators that a man had tried to kill him during his travels, and that he believed this was the same man responsible for the backpack murders. The man introduced himself to Onions as Bill and offered Onions a lift while he was backpacking along the highway. But Onions soon grew suspicious when the driver pulled off the road. Later, the man stopped his car in a secluded area miles away from the highway where he pulled out a gun and rope. Quote from Onions, "I just thought, this is it, run or die. So I undid my seatbelt and jumped straight out of the vehicle and ran." Onions recalled of the incident years later. The driver fired at Onions as he tried to run across the Hume Highway. Eventually, he flagged down a woman driver, Joanne Berry, yelling and pleading at her for help. Berry helped him to escape, but Onions' report and Berry's statement about the incident to local police was waved off and forgotten. That is until Onions saw the news about the Belanglo backpacker murders years later.
Average New South Wales police.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not new at all.
No, they're correct.
Police, yeah, some guy was shooting at me, trying to kill me. This woman was a
Nah,
witness.
Nuh-uh.
You're alright, mate.
Nuh-uh. Walk it off.
Yeah,
As
walk it
long
up.
as he wasn't a member of a crime family,
We
so they could
don't
help cover
care.
it up. They don't care.
So, in the bottom right, that is a photo of Ivan Milat finally getting arrested in 1994
Which
Oh,
one's
yeah.
Ivan?
with the blanket on his head.
Oh.
He was cold.
Alright, Australian authorities flew Onions in from London to Sydney
Oh,
to identify the
brutal.
man who had tried to kidnap and murder him.
That would have been a hell of an import cost.
Tax dollars. Out of 13 photos of suspects, Onions identified his almost killer as suspect number 4, Ivan Milat.
Whoops.
Alright,
There's his knife.
would you like me to talk about the photos first, or save that for
Yeah, give us the photos.
Alright. On the far side on the left was one of the female backpackers camping
Sleeping
gear.
bags, yeah.
He kept it at his house. This was his night that
Dumbass.
he chose to sever people's spines, and I believe that was the clothes he wore for the most recent murder.
Cool.
Meanwhile, authorities reached out to the 2 women who had been hitchhiking in 1977 near the forest and had narrowly escaped murder at the hands of the anonymous man with the black straggly hair, being shown a series of photos which included both Ivan Milat and his brother Richard. One of the women identified the brothers as working together. Together with Milat's 1971 from 2 female backpackers, authorities believe they'd found their backpacker murder. They placed an intercept on the Milat Sydney home, which was owned and shared between Ivan Milat and his sister, Shirley Sawyer, who many said were involved in the murders as well. So a lot of people think the sister-in-law and one of Milat's brothers were
In on
involved in
it.
the murders for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Quote, Shirley was in on it, end quote, the Milat's youngest brother, George, reported. Quote, I can't really say Shirley did all of it, but I would say that she was involved. Sawyer, who was the sister-in-law, and Milat also allegedly had a sexual relationship since the 1950s.
Gross.
Milat at the time had a girlfriend.
Oh.
The family were racist, but his girlfriend, I believe she was Indian or Australian. A lot of the gifts he would give her were clothes from the backpacker murders. There's a photo of her wearing this nice tracksuit jacket, and compared to one of the photos with one of the
Ew. That's gross. That's
Yeah.
fucked up.
Oh.
Go
I
have
saw
another
that
shower
as
after this.
like looking into this. I was like, that is probably one of the most messed up things about this. And she had no idea about any of it
Yeah, that's rough.
until he was getting arrested. at his
Yeah, and it all
house.
came out.
And they had a little bit of a stick-up situation because Milat was like, I'm calling your bluff. Like, mate, you're an idiot. And then there was like 20 police at the front of his house with guns. Yeah. Investigation efforts accumulated in a search operation of Milat's home on May 22nd, 1994. Teams of armed police dressed in bulletproof vests surrounded the perimeter while, according to Small, who was the lead investigator, Milat laughed and mocked the lead negotiator as if it was all a joke. Once the team was armed, police was able to place Ivan under arrest. They searched the premises and found a postcard from someone from New Zealand who referred to Milat as Bill.
Oh, no.
Whoops.
The same firearms, cartridges, and electrical tape found at some of the murder scenes and Indonesian currency. Think back to that photo I had with Wolf Creek. Just here in the top corner.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to keep in mind when I'm reading this. Milat had never travelled to Indonesia, but victims, the 2 German friends, had spent time there right before travelling to Australia. He was collecting all of these trophies from these backpackers.
These dumbass murderer is always going to have one thing.
Yeah. But the mother lode was no doubt the backpacking items and other equipment that investigators uncovered around the house and even inside the home's walls. The backpacking gear on the left was found in the walls.
Why?
Yeah.
To hide it? What do you mean, why?
But why would
Items
you keep
matched
it?
the belongings of several of the Blankenlow Forest victims. Smalls described the discovery as the Aladdin's cave of evidence. And then that's
Idiot.
explaining all the other stuff. As investigators continued to rummage through the house, an eerie thought crept into his mind. Quote, the house was jointly owned by Ivan and his sister. But the way Ivan's things, including the weapons, ammunition, clothing, and all his other property, were apparently linked to the backpacker murders. They were strewn around the property It made it look as if the house was Ivan's alone. I left the house convinced that Rod, who is the forensic psychiatrist, Milton, had been right in his assessment that control, possession, and domination were the driving forces behind Ivan's life. So he shared a home with his sister, but it did look like as if the sister didn't even live there. So it had all Ivan's crap. After the trial that lasted, I believe it was 13 weeks, it was a longer one, the backpacker murderer was sentenced to 7 life sentences, 1 for each of Ivan Milat's victims found in the bungalow, plus 6 years for the abduction of onions without the possibility of parole. Although the killer was put behind bars, mystery still shrouds the case of the backpacker murders, namely how Milat managed to pull off some of these murders on his own, which has led to the theory that he may have operated with an accomplice, like his brother Richard, even though no tangible evidence against him has ever been discovered.
They never questioned him or anything.
To this day, police remain unsure as to whether they've uncovered all of Ivan Milat's victims. They suspect a slew of missing persons cases dating back to the early 1970s could also have been his doing. So they think he's got way more people under his belt. Just because the backpacker murderer was caught, however, doesn't mean he was taken out of the spotlight. In 1997, Milat attempted to escape prison alongside a convicted drug dealer. The 2 failed, and the drug dealer hung himself in his cell the next day. Milat was consequently transferred to the maximum security super prison in Goulburn, New South Wales.
Is he dead?
Yeah, he died.
Okay.
Ivan Milat maintained his innocence until the end, working on a crusade to clear his name ever since he first stepped foot in jail. He wrote numerous letters to reporters and the Australian newspaper claiming his innocence, including a letter addressing the Sydney Morning Herald, which is like our Times magazine, but it's...
They ain't gonna help.
At one point, he printed out the phrase, "Ivan is innocent," using a prison Dymo labeling machine and plastered the labels all over his prison walls.
There was so much evidence at his fucking house. What's he trying to...
Yeah.
No, he's
I don't know
Those
who put that
tiny
there.
little
Nah, boss, it's him.
label boxes.
It's him going,
Printing them all off. It was me.
Well, me
No,
dog.
no.
Not me dog.
In his more extreme endeavours, Milat wrote to the New South Wales Supreme Court, the DNA Review Panel, and the Attorney General's office.
Boss was
to
getting him like
review
the
his trial,
Avengers.
and he even cut off his little finger with a plastic knife so that he could mail it into the High Court to force a bill on his
How did he
case.
get through his bone with a plastic knife?
Effort.
He's a murderer. He killed all those backpackers. Would have been pretty easy for him.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Eventually, Ivan Milat was diagnosed with esophageal cancer and was moved to the medical ward of Long Bay Correctional Centre for chemotherapy. And on October 27th, 2019, disease took his life at the age of 74.
Big ups, cancer.
That's right before COVID started.
Yeah.
Boss
it was
missed
like
out.
right as the fires were really starting to take place, and then we went into lockdown in
Year after.
March.
March.
Mm.
But
March,
it was starting around November.
Yeah. So let's bring it back. Wolf Creek itself is a really popular tourist site in Western Australia, but the killings said to have occurred there were made up. Elements from Milat's backpacker murders and murders by killer Bradley Murdoch in 2001 were used to create the film story. Quote, "Look at how big Australia is." Look at how big Australia is. How do you find a body? That's what Wolf Creek taps into. All that space will never get found.
Mm.
According to McLean, the film's main character Mick is the composite of both Ivan Milat and Bradley John Murdoch, who was charged for the murder of British backpacker Peter Falcone in 2005 when this movie came out. Quote, "So it combines elements of those true characters and then took a lot of Australian archetypal characters and cultural mythology like Crocodile Dundee and Steve Irwin, and wove those characters into a combination to come up with a character. It's kind of an interesting combination of those two things. The iconography by the repressed side of the country." Alright. a little bit of impact. So in the top left, that's Ivan Milat's house. How normal does that
That looks
look?
like every other
That looks like
Australian
any
house.
suburban home in Australia. Any.
Shit.
Yeah. And then to the right, that's Boris Milat. That's Ivan Milat's older brother that actually speaks up against him.
He's the
He was
younger
the one at the start I was
right?
saying that was like, yeah, my brother was a psychopath.
Yeah,
In the bottom left is their family photos.
that's too many of them.
There's a lot of family there. The bottom right is Milat incarcerated. That's him in the police car.
He looks chuffed to be there.
Someone took a photo of him.
Why does he look so happy?
Exactly.
He's a fucking psycho. Of course
Yeah.
he's happy.
Meanwhile, Ivan Milat's family has been publicly divided by his actions. Some members, like his brother Boris, have spoken against Milat's crimes, while others still defend him. One of his biggest supporters is his nephew Alistair Shipsey. Shipsey has spoken to the press on a number of occasions to declare his uncle's innocence. After the suicide of Shipley's father when he was 16, Shipley said that his uncle had helped to pay for part of the funeral and headstone, aka Ivan Milat. They stayed close ever since. Quote, I'm his oldest nephew and we have always been close, end quote. He's a good person with a big heart. He was a tower of strength.
Uh-huh.
Then there's Ivan Milat's mother, Margaret Milat, who, according to one Milat brother, is the only person to whom the backpacker murderer has actually confessed to. But she has not said anything about him being guilty or not guilty since. But Ivan Milat's biggest legacy, perhaps, is that his murderous tendencies were apparently passed on to another generation of the family. In 2012, Ivan Milat's great-nephew, Matthew Milat, and his friend Colin
Klein.
that's his nephew, that's his friend,
I was gonna
were
say,
sentenced to 43 years and 32 years in prison, respectively, for the murder of their classmate, David Arcatellian, on his 17th birthday. Milat and Klein had lured the teenager to the Belangolo forest,
Oh my god.
the same place where Matthew Milat's great-uncle had committed those horrendous crimes decades ago, with the promise of smoking weed and drinking. Instead, they murdered the birthday boy with an axe.
I hate to be that guy, but the dude on the right does have a fire fit on. I really like the purple and black.
God.
His haircut does nothing for him.
No,
Yeah.
he looks like he's straight out of Vampire Diaries.
Even after his death, Ivan Milat casts a shadow of horror over Australia. And then there's a link to the case.
We're fine, we're Australian.
Do you have any questions?
Are there any, like, that was 2012. Has there been any other Milat murders?
No.
So it's seemingly...
Apparently, there's Milat that lives on the coast. There is an offspring somewhere.
Get him! Get him! Me and you.
What?
Do you reckon the British one,
Yeah.
like who was murdered in 2005, so after the movie had been done,
Yeah.
was what inspired the second one?
I don't think so.
Because he targets the British in that movie.
Yeah.
And then you've got the entire sequence where he just grinds off his fingers with Australian trivia.
I think the second Wolf Creek was more inspired by Paul Onions.
Yeah.
So if he had been captured.
Plunions.
Yeah, he does let him go at the end.
Onions.
Plunions.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for watching the
Depressing
Yappertiser. It's a pretty,
Yappertiser.
yeah. Like this case, it's literally changed Australia, how we view travelling pools.
They're not the police.
In
They're a little
fairness,
bit better now.
more laws got passed after this whole
Yeah.
thing to make more people safe. It was a very big cultural touch mark.
And then a couple of years later, they had the Port Arthur stuff,
Oh my god.
and then that truly changed Australia.
Next Yappertiser.
Yeah, maybe. I know, we kind of want to do a spooky one next. I don't want to do another metal one.
This is spooky. I don't know. Fucking
I mean, this is like based on a movie, though. Well, yeah.
a spooky movie.
This was based off the movie?
Yeah, he saw the movie and was like, "That guy's got an idea.
Yes. Let
That
me.
That guy's got some banger ideas."
Yeah.
Hey, more like Ivan McCrack.
That
With
would
that
have
being said-
sent him. That's why he started killing people, because he got that once in primary school. He's like, "Fuck this, guys." It was a British guy who said that. Funnily enough.
Mm.
British guy.
British, yeah.
A British.
British.
Anyways,
Cut the footage!
cut the footage, like, subscribe, comment.
Watch the Conjuring one. Watch the
Watch the
Until Dawn
Conjuring.
episode.
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, watch Sketty. All of it.
All of it's pretty good.
Hot ones was pretty funny.
Went
Anyways.
straight through me.
Bye.